Access granted.
God, Church.
Perfect.
Hello all, welcome back to the Crossover Archive, the series where I chronicle and analyze every crossover I come across. Today we take a look at the crossover that started something that is both great and horrible, Mortal Kombat vs. DC. We have a lot to discuss, so let's travel to this awkward crossover world. I've watched this crossover world twice, and both times I was neutral, but the second time really opened my eyes to just how destructive yet great this is. If you watched my last video on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, link in the description and card, you would know that I hate it when a writer, company, what have you, merges their universe with Marvel or DC. These two are notorious crossover whores that open their doors to whoever offers them money, and when you look at that, this crossover is a universal merger between Mortal Kombat and DC. It really makes sure to ram it in your skull that this merger is universal in scope. Nope, they couldn't just do the Earth, they had to merge the entire universe. Like the two before, they tried to make a serious crossover with two universes coming together to fight the great enemy. Shockingly, this is actually the best out of the three. No stupid time skip or garbage boring writing. Let's start from the beginning, explaining how this happened. First off, it does not matter when this takes place for DC, since it's almost impossible to find out which universe and what time period this takes place. But for reasons I will get into later, I'll say this takes place in the Injustice universe sometime before the first game and any prequel comics. For Mortal Kombat, this takes place after MK3. I got this from the great YouTuber Fourth Snake in his video going over the messy timeline of MK. Link in the description. I chose to believe in his calculations since he hasn't failed me yet. So in the DC universe, Earth was finishing off Darkseid and his army. When Darkseid was about to leave using a boom tube, Superman used his heat vision to... I really don't know actually. Was Superman trying to kill him or just prevent him from getting away? If it was the second one, then he could have done it a better way. And if it was the first, well, you know, Superman doesn't kill. I guess this is a passable foreshadowing for Injustice. Meanwhile, in Mortal Kombat, Shao Kahn was running away after he was beaten by Earthrealm after trying to invade by using Sindel, I think. After some dialogue between Raiden and Shao Kahn, Raiden blasts Kahn until he gets caught up inside the portal. Oh, and Quan Chi was there if you cared. So these events happening at the same time somehow caused the merger of Shao Kahn and Darkseid, creating Dark Kahn, the prototype of Ultron Sigma, which then as an effect caused the universes to merge using vague rage energy that is somehow different from the Red Lantern's rage energy. Okay, let's just move on from that. The overall story is broken down into both sides see the merger, think that their respective bad guy is responsible, and that the other side is their respective bad guy's army. After fighting each other, coming up with plans to foil the other, while dealing with a growing rage within both sides that causes more fights and misunderstandings to pad out the playtime and speed up the merger. In the end, they fight one last grand battle before teaming up to take down Dark Kahn. Due to this merger, the barrier between the universes became very weak and caused the Earth to become split between MK's and DC's Earth. It's also implied to have happened to Otherworld by the Green Lantern Guardians, except probably without the fighting, just general chaos. Now with that being said, I want to get into one thing that this crossover does better than almost every other. They actually power scaled the universe. I can almost shed a tear. You see, the merger caused everyone's power to be redistributed to everyone so as to have a somewhat stable balance between fighters. I don't know why or how this happens. I get Superman getting weakened by magic, but not everyone else. I won't complain, however, since they at least did something. Others don't even bother. There are only some moments that stretch this excellent idea. Sonya beating Green Lantern and Shazam near the beginning of the merger was a bit much, especially when Shazam later on in a weakened state fought and beat Scorpion, Baraka, and Shang Tsung with little trouble. That same Shang Tsung beat Wonder Woman with little trouble. Besides those hiccups, the power scaling was done very well, with most of the matchups and victories being reasonable. The interactions were also very good and true to each character. I especially like this line from Batman to Superman.
Town, alright?
If we lose here, if you lose to the rage, then the Earth is doomed. I'm not going to give up. I never give up, and neither do you.
This makes what will happen or what would have happened a bit more sad. Now we come to the gods of both universes and how they react to this crossover. And again, this crossover did something good. They actually acknowledged at least some of them. Since this is a universal merger, the Green Lantern Corps had to deal with it, and they were gone for a somewhat good reason. The gods of Shazam were also in it, for exposition, but still there. I would imagine those gods were holding the realm together for as long as possible, like how the Green Lantern Corps were. I don't know all the gods of DC, but the ones that we should worry about are more concerned with multiversal threats. Maybe I'm wrong on that, so if I am, then correct me in the comments. As for the Elder Gods, they don't do much anyway, so that's a bullet dodged. The only ones that might be a problem are Shinnok and Kronika, and that brings us back to the problem. Most of the problems stem from that mistake, MK11, and Kronika. MK is now officially a multiverse, and that multiverse is firmly planted inside the DC universe, which is within the Overvoid, meaning that MK is within the Overvoid. So at the end of MK11, the multiverse gets reset. What happens to this crossover? That damn hourglass should only affect the MK multiverse, not DC, but thanks to that montage of Raiden and Liu Kang fighting and Scorpion plus Sub-Zero in Injustice, the chances of this being canon increases by a lot. I know what you're thinking. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are just non-canon guests. I would agree with you if it was not for the small rule. If a guest just has pre-fight dialogue, then no, they are not canon. But if they have arcade endings, then I consider them canon. And guess what? Sub-Zero and Scorpion have them. What does all this tell us besides the fact that I have to make a video going more in depth about the Injustice guest characters? It tells me that I have to make a timeline to explain this entire situation and how MK fits into DC. So sorry, Fourth Snake, I'm going to have to borrow your stick and make a multiverse line through time going through the entire Injustice, Mortal Kombat plus guest characters timeline. Hopefully this will clue Netherworld in on how to make a great sequel to this in MK11. Make sure to subscribe for this next week. Now that we got that out the way, let's get on with the ratings. Overall, this is an above average crossover presented in a somewhat stale way due to animation and design of characters. Logic is 7 out of 10, enjoyment is 6 out of 10, and chance of being canon is 8 out of 10 bicycle kicks. Like and share if you enjoyed. Correct me if I got a detail wrong or I missed something. I'll be sure to mention it next week. With that, I'll see you later.
Your troubled mind.